Hello friends! Earlier this week I asked for questions on my Facebook page and I got some good ones. Setting up your camera for certain effects, me as a model versus a photographer, some about gear, and even a little Star Wars. So let's jump into it. Ken asks, is contrast a part of composition? Cameras don't have a setting for it, or do they? In post seems the only way. I suppose contrast could be kind of a compositional element. For example, if you have something dark intersecting something very light that creates a shape or something, but I don't think that that's what you're talking about. I think that you are talking about just your standard contrast, brightening the brights and darkening the darks. A great many people make that adjustment in post-processing. However, many cameras do have a contrast adjustment in camera. On Nikon, you have picture controls. On Canon, you have picture styles. On Fuji and Sony, there are dynamic range adjustments that you can make. If my recollection is correct, though, you shoot Nikon, Ken. So let's talk about picture control a little more. It's in the shooting menu, and depending upon the camera, you have several options here. If you choose something like landscape, contrast is going to be boosted for you already. But even if you're just using the standard picture control, you see at the bottom that you can press the right arrow or the up arrow, depending on the camera, and you can make any number of adjustments, including to contrast. You can also make a custom picture control, but that would probably be a whole other video, so I won't get into that. One thing to remember though, if you are shooting in RAW, those picture control adjustments won't reliably come into editing software with your file unless you're using Nikon software. If you are shooting JPEG, you're good to go, which I think is what you do, so you're good to go. Robert asks, in looking through your archives, the quality of your images take a huge leap when you are behind the lens instead of in front of it. TFP models are easy to come by. Why don't you use more models? Please don't interpret this as I don't like seeing images of you, but Raymond takes technically correct images but doesn't have your eye for composition and detail. Well, Robert, I'm touched. That's actually a really nice compliment, so thank you. I used to do all of my own photography, but in the last few years, I've grown to rely on Raymond to listen to my ideas and sometimes follow my exact instructions in what I want, but also sometimes to take liberties in how things are framed while I focus on getting myself into position and really creating the image that I want that will convey the idea that I want for the video that I'm going to eventually make. I have done a few classic self-portrait sessions lately, and I remember how much I actually really enjoy it, but it's significantly more difficult. That being said, there are a number of reasons why I don't use models all that often. The biggest is that I'm a control freak. I want to control my images from end to end, and while I have worked with some great models, it is a lot easier for me to tell myself what I want me to do rather than to tell a model, and it's an area that I'd actually like to work on. Also, I do photo shoots all over the place at all hours, and it's not always easy to find someone who's willing to, say, get up at dawn or before dawn to hike a mile or more to a location in the cold or the heat and then freeze or sweat through a photo shoot. And you know what else? I like to pay my models, and I'll do like a short get to know you session, just time for prints. But if I'm doing anything of substance, like I'm going to be including those images in a VIP gallery or in a book, I want to pay the model for his or her time, and that gets expensive in a hurry. All that being said, I do tire of staring at myself, editing myself in videos, editing myself in photos, and I would love to use more models. Nicholas says, hi SnapChick, I have 2 questions. Do I absolutely have to shoot with Nikon camera? Also, do I absolutely have to shoot in RAW? I would like to get your advice, please. Thanks. Well, hello, Nicholas. My answers are no and no. You should shoot with whatever camera meets your needs and is easy for you to use. For me, that's typically Nikon. For others, it's Canon or Fuji or Sony or even their phone. As for shooting in RAW, it certainly has its benefits. There's lots of latitude in post-processing, but it also has its drawbacks. There's larger files, there's a necessity to post-process in certain software. But really, if someone is telling you that you have to shoot in a certain way, that would be your cue to tune out. I personally shoot differently in different circumstances. Sometimes it's raw, but sometimes it's not. Jack wants to know, what is your favorite aspect of photography? The technical side, the creative side? What is your least favorite part of the process? What gives you the most satisfaction? Jack, those are juicy questions. Let's start with my favorite aspect of photography, the technical side or the creative side. I mean, I like it all, but it's definitely the creative side that keeps me up at night, thinking up new ideas. It lights my brain up, but I do love gadgets and trying new gear. My least favorite part of the process, right? Yeah, my least favorite part of the process. That's a difficult question because I love photography. I mean, I don't love like sitting at a computer for a long time with an image and editing. I'm not someone who likes a lot of post-processing, but that's why I don't do a lot of it. So, that solves that problem for me. As for what gives me the most satisfaction, that kind of goes back to Robert's question a minute ago. I love the entire process, the conception of a portrait or an adventure, developing that and planning it out, and then choosing equipment, and then working for that execution and that finished product. It is ultimately satisfying for me when I am satisfied that I had a vision and I made it happen. Tori says, all your thoughts on Star Wars The Last Jedi. Oh, Tori. Yes, yes, and yes. Do you remember how excited I was when I saw those bears on the side of the road at Yellowstone?
Here's the thing. Bears! 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 Bears!
Bears! Oh my gosh.
Bears!
That's how excited I am on the inside. I'm practically vibrating. Tori, I haven't even watched all of the teaser footage yet. I get too worked up. I will probably cry when I see it because I just will. Not even because of any of the stuff that happens, just because I'm watching it. Oh, and maybe because Han isn't around anymore and Leia. I can't believe Carrie Fisher is gone. I mean, I know she's in the movie, but it will definitely be bittersweet to see my idol, Leia, not Carrie Fisher, even though she was pretty badass in a lot of ways too. And I know I won't see her again after this movie. Shoot. I actually might cry now. I gotta go get a hold of myself. Hold on. All right, I've gotten a hold of myself. On to Mark's question. What travel tripod do you use or would recommend to be able to handle a D810 and 70 to 200 millimeter lens? You know what? I like my newest tripod. It's the Amazon Basics 70-inch pistol grip. I put a link to it below. It's rated to hold up to 11 pounds. And it's still a pretty lightweight tripod. Just make sure that you use the tripod collar on the lens so that you can balance it properly. If you need something more lightweight though, let's go to the audience. If any of you guys out there have something that you really like for traveling, let us know in the comments below. Brad asks, are mounting plates on tripod heads standard, or do you have to mate brand/type to brand/type? Well, unfortunately, there's no standard. I have a couple of different types of inexpensive tripods that actually do have the same plate, so it has been known to happen, but there's no standard. Myra says, I have too many. Ask them, Myra, that's what I'm here for. And my last question today is from Gustavo. If you could only have one of these, which would it be? A second tripod for your external flash, a second flash, or your first prime lens? Love your channel. Oh, thank you, Gustavo. And definitely a prime lens. I mean, getting your flash off camera is life-changing, though I've been known to balance mine in all sorts of places that aren't a tripod. Adding a flash to your setup can be a game changer too, but I personally adore prime lenses. You can't beat the weight or lack thereof, the sharpness of your images, and I really like the freedom from zooming. It can be a surprisingly satisfying challenge to shoot with a prime lens, so that would be my personal answer. And that is it, everybody. Thank you for your questions. I feel like I get a lot of the same questions over and over, which is fine. I love helping people, but these questions today were a little bit different, and it really got my brain moving, so it was extra fun. Remember that I am around all the time here on YouTube, on social media, on everything, answering those questions and making videos. So subscribe and follow me and ask me questions. And later this week, I will have a video for you about shooting video. And I'll talk to you then. Thanks for watching.